The earthly life is the examination, and to pass it is you need Islam to pass the earthly examination. I've explained this, many times. So, like I said, science is just a tool. That's it. It's like you have a car, and if you need a car, you drive the car. If you don't need it, you don't need a car. You can sell your car, and you can just use your legs. I mean, I don't know what kind of. What I'm saying is, maybe that was a bad example, but we don't need science. We don't need to be obsessed with science. Okay? And yes, I mean, let's talk about scientific progress. Okay? Now, science tells us that in about 5 to 7 billion years, more or less, our sun, which is a main sequence star, our sun will become a red giant and swallow up all the planets in its path, which includes planet Earth. And then 2 or 3 trillion years later, our universe, within a limited multiverse, our universe, in 2 or 3 trillion years later, will lose all its energy and stop to function. So now the question is, what scientific progress are we on about? What I'm trying to say is, a day will come in the future. Don't forget, within the limited multiverse, and especially in our universe, the Creator Allah created time. Time is a special creation. Some say it's the fourth dimension. However, time, we go through time, we age. So time is a creation, a special creation. And so therefore, in the future, and therefore time makes possible past, present, and future. And so therefore, in the future, one day, the sun will become a red giant and swallow up the earth, and therefore earth will become like totally extinct. You see? And then also the universe one day will stop to function, and everything within the universe will basically stop to function, cease to exist. So what scientific progress are we on about? You see my point? Now, if you take that into context, if you take that one day the sun will swallow up the earth, and one day the universe will stop to function, and therefore any number of universes within the limited multiverse will stop to function, and there is no infinite universes and infinite regress. All that I've mentioned in other podcasts and talks. And you can't have a infinite number of universes. Okay? And all that has been explained in other talks, and also explained by Hamza Andrea Zotzis and other scholars. Okay, so coming back to the topic, one day the sun will swallow up one day the sun will swallow up one day the sun will swallow up the earth, and one day in the future the universe will stop to function. In that context and in that understanding, what scientific progress are we talking about? Yet there is no scientific progress, because one day in the future the sun will swallow up the earth, and one day in the future the universe will stop to function, cease to exist. So in that context, there is absolute extinction for us and everything inside the universe. So what scientific progress are we on about? Now you see, you should understand why the Creator Allah says in the Quran that one day everything will perish. also known as the Armageddon. You see, one day everything will perish. Yeah, and then after that day, yeah, I think is known as the day of reckoning, just before the day of judgment. Yeah, so everything will perish one day. I'm paraphrasing, and then it's judgment day. Okay, this is why it's important for you, the non-Muslim, yeah, to become a Muslim, to become a Sunni Muslim, to choose to become a Sunni Muslim and live a Sunni Muslim life, and then experience death as a Sunni Muslim, and then you and I, one day with the Creator Allah's permission and mercy, will enter paradise, enter Jannah. Ameen. Now, carrying on, Darwinian theory of evolution, and I want to talk about, so for example, humans as well as the many other life forms on earth have complex, intricate systems. These intricate systems point to some type of designer, and to argue they formed naturally over many years is as crazy as saying a watch could do the same. Not only this, the watch is made up of many different parts, some of which would be obsolete without the others. The motor wouldn't turn without the battery, the watch hand wouldn't turn without the motor, etc. This is known as something called irreducible complexity, meaning that without all the parts of the system combined as one, the system becomes useless. Irreducible complexity is highlighted in many biological organisms. The main premise behind irreducible complexity is if something is taken out of the system fails to continue working. The system fails to continue working. This would mean the system could not have been built in successive modifications, as everything is needed at once in order to make it function properly. It's all or nothing. Either the everything is there and the system works, or something is missing and it doesn't. There is no in between. Charles Darwin said in his book Origin of Species, if it could be demonstrated that any complex organ existed which could not possibly have been formed by numerous successive slight modifications, my theory would absolutely break down. This means that based on what the founder of evolution himself stated, Darwinian theory of evolution, if something existed here on earth which could not be explained by successive modifications over time, it would disprove the theory. And based on what we're about to go, based on what I just said, this would mean the theory has been disproven. Let me say this again. So, if something existed on earth which could not be explained by successive modifications over time, it would disprove the Darwinian theory of evolution. And therefore, I have just disproven the Darwinian theory of evolution.